G'day folks, my name's Mark. Thanks for joining for another update of the CFMOTO U10 Pro. It's the 27th of December 2024, so it is Christmas time, so Merry Christmas to all, and it's bloody hot in Australia. So today I'll be covering the couple things, the quick update of the throttle recall and the oil filter issue, a bit of flexing and climbing in the U10 Pro, the altitude display features, and some issues with the hydraulic lift. It seems to be a real piss poor effort, but we'll get into that. So jumping straight into it, in regards to the throttle recall and the oil filter issue that I mentioned in my previous video, I sent the supplier, or the importer I should say, an email on the 19th of December, and to date I've received no reply. I did give them a call today. They weren't able to give any updates, so as far as I'm concerned the issue is still an issue. They did acknowledge that if there is any concerns or problems, it will be covered due to the fact that they can't provide the part. But I also acknowledge it is Christmas holidays, so most places will be running skeleton staff. So I'll keep you updated on that issue as we go along. So getting into the fun stuff, in one of the paddocks there's an old tree that's fallen, as you can see, and I put some dirt there to get this thing up and over. With great success, it just drove up and over it. It did scrub out on the bottom though, so I will be looking at potentially getting some protection underneath, but it's just no issues whatsoever with this one. So over here, whilst it looks to be struggling, it's actually had to go into a hole and pull its way back out. The hole I dug was already pulled with water, so as you can see it's quite sloppy. It's basically just a good mixture of good clay, mud, dirt and stuff like that. Now for me personally, I'm all about slow and steady wins the race. Also appreciating that momentum also plays a big factor in most things, and I don't know, perhaps this thing could have gone up and over this mound of dirt. Had I given it a bit, had it had a bit more speed, perhaps, I don't know. But with that being said, I don't really want to risk the damage at this point of breaking a CV or something like that, given that the distributor can't even have an oil filter in stock, so it would concern me that it would take significant time to get a replacement part if something like that happens. So for now, it's going to take it a bit easier. With that being said, at this point in time, I believe it was in four-wheel drive lock with the rear lockers on as well. When it had a little bit of wheel spin and a few more revs, there was a few grinding sounds that I really wasn't overly comfortable with, so in the end, I didn't really want to push it too much more. If it happens again, I'll take note, but it wasn't something I was trying to record again to make happen. Now for me, I do find these things a little bit hard to steer when it comes to material such as the slop and mud-like surface, as you can see. But with that being said, the tyres are completely full. It's lucky to sort of even get any grip, I guess. But for me, as much as I give my machines a hard time, work them hard, don't like to thrash them per se, and therefore it's too new to really hammer it at this point, and that's why I didn't really give it too much of a hard time. Now coming up and over the other side, this thing just had no issues whatsoever. I think he had it two-wheel drive, which is why I had to stop and change gear again, but it went straight over the other side. And at one point it is quite a bit of a steep incline. I think it was 24 or 26 degrees according to the altitude meter, which I'll go into shortly. But yeah, it just climbs up and over. I still love it. I still have all these little things I complain about and make note of. I guess, it's just me being pedantic about things, and but ultimately, I guess, the machine itself, it serves the purpose of what I needed to do. Now, just over here is one of the old berms for the old bike trucks for the boys. It's a good opportunity to drive the U10 up and over it. It's a great way to see the flex within it, the weight distribution throughout. It gives a bit of an understanding as to where that pivotal point is or where it will turn over, bits and pieces like that. Now, at the end of the day, this is just an opportunity to try out what this thing does, what it won't do. try the different settings, how it reacts in different situations, in different settings. I think it's really hard for people who review vehicles who don't own them, whether that be a car, truck, utility like this, to go out and review them, provide a full review in one hit is a bit hard. You know, you really need to be able to drive your vehicle. Anyone who drives their vehicles, their trucks, their utilities, whatever, they know their vehicles, they know how it handles in situations and things like that. And so again, not saying that this can't do these sorts of mud tricks, change your tyres, change your settings, perhaps a bit more revs, a bit more momentum, I don't know. But as I mentioned earlier, I'm a little bit hesitant at this point due to the fact that there is no parts in the country and I don't want to break anything, and it does need that 20-hour first service, so it's past due anyway. Now, one thing I still hate about this thing is the clunking sound the gearbox makes when you change gears. I've covered that in the previous videos and how to sort of avoid that. Now take note of the sound you're about to hear. Now, aside from the clicking in the gearbox, which happens as per normal, I've noticed, that was a crunch within the gearbox. And the reason for that is because the revs didn't go back to a complete idle, they were slightly off, there was that crunch in changing gears. It is something to be mindful of, and I have found this has happened a few times. But the only way to avoid it is completely coming to a stop and allowing those revs come back to a complete idle. Now, when it comes to using the altitude meter, to be honest, this is the first time I've actually opened it up on the module there and used it. I do find it quite interesting, and I think it's quite a handy feature to use, especially if you find yourself in a gnarly situation where you're a bit unsure. It's a bit hard to see there, but you can see there's like the blue, yellow and red sort of around the circle, indicating, I guess, sort of an extreme sort of incline that you're on. The most I got it at this point in time was only 28 degree incline. But I thought it's quite a handy feature and worth sharing. I do recall a video of a side-by-side. It was a buggy sort of side-by-side, like a sports one, not one of these utility ones a few years ago, where someone was stuck on the side of a sand dune and they were a bit hesitant of actually driving it off, so someone else actually stopped and drove it off for them. I sort of thought in situations like that, something like this would provide reassurance to the driver or the user, or the operator, whatever you want to say, to go from there. There was a reason that I actually recorded this bit something, but I can't remember what it was, but for what it's worth, just listen to that purr. It doesn't sound great. So as I mentioned at the start of this video, it is Christmas time, so it's quite hot here in Australia, and basically all the little ones in the family have received Tonka toys. Quite different from what I remember as a kid. They were all metal, but you know, they're sort of metal and plastic, and I guess it takes away that bit of nostalgia for me personally, but anyway, it is what it is. So I wanted to shift some dirt closer to the house so they could make a bit of a makeshift construction site and things like that. As you can see, there is a little bit of movement in the U10 every time a little bit of dirt got dropped into it, but it wasn't much. I don't think they overloaded it or anything like that. So at this point we've got the U10 back to the house and right to the spot where I want to tip off the dirt. And as I try to tip the dirt off, the little hydraulic just doesn't have the power in order to lift up the tray with apparently what has a 458 kilo lifting capacity from my understanding, which I'll go into after. But basically you can see it is slightly on a bit of a slope, so we thought maybe we'll take some of it out and see how it goes from there, but it still failed miserably, and yeah, what more can I say?
I don't know if it's a locking mechanism or what, because it just doesn't want to fucking lift. But you can see it pushing the guts up.
At this point we've emptied half of it and it still didn't work, so we relocated the U10 to a bit more of a flatter spot. ultimately I just had to pull the thing up myself to try and get all the dirt out, which ultimately it worked. But it was quite disappointing. I mean, it was a measly amount of dirt, small amount in my view, and to think that this is one of the biggest selling points of this machine, at least it was for me, to think that maybe older people, things like that, people with disabilities, limited movement, whatever, may utilise this machine for that sales point. But then in reality, when they go to use it, it doesn't actually work as specified. Now, the CFMOTO website states it's 458 kilo cargo tray, and it's got now with hydraulic power tilt cargo tray to unload with ease. That would indicate to me that you'd be able to lift that capacity with ease. I haven't seen anywhere else that states otherwise, and looking into the owner's manual, trying to find some sort of limit on lifting capacity, it states nothing. So I will be following up with CFMOTO about this. I will be asking them to put a job for a warranty claim for a new hydraulic in to see if that makes any difference, but ultimately this could be a bit of an oversight. I'm not too sure. CFMOTO may need to change the hydraulic altogether, who knows. So that's it from me today, folks. Thanks for tuning in and watching. I will be sure to keep you updated as time goes on any further issues and what happens with the other stuff that's currently present. You enjoy the rest of your holiday season and all the best for 2025. If this video has been of assistance for you, please give it a like, subscribe, and I'll see you again soon.